For the best experience, put on headphones and write a comment, where you are from, and what time you are watching the video. Don't forget to subscribe. I stumbled upon a book that defies explanation, one that surely shouldn't exist, for if it does, then the threads of sanity begin to fray. My lifelong passion for books has always been profound. Since my early days of learning to read, I've been captivated by the magic they hold. People often believe books merely contain words, but they encapsulate creation and life. What a writer puts to paper becomes something real, at least in the mind of the reader. When you immerse yourself in a narrative, visualizing the scenes crafted by an author, isn't that a form of creativity? Writing is an act of creation, while reading is an experience, a journey into worlds woven by imagination. My desire to engage with every narrative crafted by writers has always been a priority. To say that I struggle socially would be an understatement. The connections and experiences I couldn't cultivate with people, I found abundantly in the pages of a book. I devoured literature, and it became the singular thing I cherished deeply. This affinity led me to become a librarian, allowing me to immerse myself in the presence of my beloved books daily. After I graduated from college, I was fortunate enough to land a job at the Boston Public Library, a cherished institution and one of the oldest libraries in America. While many gravitated towards the more populated areas, I discovered my true sanctuary in the basement floors, where few dared to tread. There, rows upon rows of towering shelves held old and priceless books from various corners of the globe, each carrying a history that whispered through their worn pages. The aroma of aged paper and leather enveloped me every morning, filling my senses with a rich blend of knowledge, creativity, and time. A fragrance that, it seemed, only I could truly appreciate. Recently, we received a shipment of ancient and unidentified books from an anonymous benefactor, a task bestowed upon me to catalog them. The box itself was beautifully adorned in a Baroque style, yet its exterior was coated in a thick layer of dust and dirt, as though it had been buried for ages. No titles or inscriptions marked its surface, and apart from its ostentatious design, it seemed unremarkable. But when I opened it, I found 12 thick leather-bound tomes inside, and my curiosity ignited, eager to discover the nature of their contents. Perhaps it will come as a surprise to some, but librarians are essentially professional researchers. In pursuit of answers, I contacted colleagues at the Rittman Library in Amsterdam, known for its significant collection of occult literature. Unfortunately, they couldn't assist me in identifying the book. They informed me that none of the texts were recognized in their archives. I tried translating some of the more familiar Latin and Greek passages, but the results were nonsensical or incomprehensible. I found myself flipping through the pages endlessly, desperate for clarity. One late night, after excusing myself to make a cup of tea, I returned to my desk with the intent to examine the book once more. I left it open to a page displaying a pictogram of a door, surrounded by indecipherable text. When I settled back into my chair, something strange caught my attention. A portion of the text had transformed, now readable in English. I blinked in disbelief, attributing it to fatigue, yet there it was again. A different passage now legible in my native tongue. Flipping back and forth between the pages, I noted that the rest remained unchanged, yet this particular segment was accessible. The image of the door wasn't truly a door, merely the best description I could conjure. The drawing depicted a dark, arching space with a singular point of light shining through, as if leading to an endless void. Leaning closer, I read aloud the newfound words. Where the light shines, the darkness will be swallowed up. As I gazed at the illustration, the faint glimmer began to pulsate, illuminating reality itself. I stood up, instinctively stepping back, my eyes glued to the glowing page. The tiny orb of light expanded into a radiant sphere. Instead of fleeing, I felt an irresistible pull toward it, entranced by its brilliance. As the light enveloped me, I felt myself being drawn through it, into an expanse of darkness. In that overwhelming void, the library faded from existence. Shapes and forms emerged, incomprehensible and alien. All around me were lichen-covered rocks and stagnant pools of murky water. Stars floated aimlessly, without a frame of reference, bending reality in a manner that brought me to my knees, lost in panic and despair. There was no concept of above or below. The very fabric of existence unraveled before me. As the bizarre reality swirled chaotically, something materialized before me. It was amorphous, simultaneously larger than a skyscraper and smaller than my hand. A solitary point of light fixed upon me, as if it were aware of my presence. This light burrowed into my essence, a piercing gaze that felt insatiable and malignant, a sensation I dread to recall. After a moment, the entity turned away, vanishing as though it had drained whatever it needed from my being. The kaleidoscopic reel morphed again, coalescing into a singular point of shadow. I blinked and found myself back in my chair in the library's basement, utterly disoriented. The book that had captivated me was no longer there, vanished without a trace. When my supervisor found me the following morning, I lay curled on the floor, knees drawn to my chest. I recounted everything, my encounter with the book, the unreality of it all. And as I spoke, tears streamed down my cheeks. She attempted to console me, repeating that only 11 books had been donated, insisting the 12th could not possibly exist. But I knew better. The echoes of that encounter lingered, etching fear into my very core.